Are you struggling to navigate the cutthroat world of power, where alliances shift and rivals lurk at every turn? In today's fast-paced, competitive landscape, how do you stay one step ahead? Join us as we uncover how Machiavelli would outsmart everyone today with his 21 timeless rules of power strategies to solve the problem of surviving and thriving in a world where only the cunning prevail. In a world of ambition, betrayal, and relentless competition, one mind towers above the rest: Niccolo Machiavelli. His name is synonymous with cunning, strategy, and power. 5 centuries ago, he penned The Prince, a ruthless guide to seizing and holding power. But what if Machiavelli walked among us today? How would his razor-sharp intellect dominate our modern age of social media, corporate battles, and global influence? Welcome to How Machiavelli Would Outsmart Everyone Today. I am your guide, unraveling his 21 rules of power, timeless principles reimagined for the 21st century. Prepare to learn how to outmaneuver, outthink, and outlast your rivals in a world where only the shrewdest survive. Picture this: a world where power shifts like sand in a storm, where every decision could crown you or crush you. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli, a man with a mind sharper than a dagger, carved out a guide to conquering that chaos. His masterpiece, The Prince, wasn't just a book. It was a weapon, a blueprint for navigating the treacherous waters of power. And here's the kicker: those lessons, forged in the cutthroat courts of Renaissance Italy, still cut through the noise of our modern world. Welcome to the first of Machiavelli's 21 rules of power, timeless strategic thinking. If you want to outsmart everyone today, whether in boardrooms, social circles, or the wild west of the internet, you need to think like Machiavelli. So, grab a seat, lean in, and let's unravel how his genius would dominate 2025. Machiavelli wasn't just a thinker, he was a chess master playing 3 moves ahead while everyone else was stuck on checkers. His strategic thinking wasn't about brute force. It was about seeing the board clearly, predicting your opponent's moves, and turning their strengths into your advantage. Today, that board is global, digital, and relentless. Imagine Machiavelli scrolling through X, analyzing trends, dissecting power plays in real time. He'd see a politician's vague tweet as a feint, a CEO bold announcement as a distraction, a viral meme as a weapon of influence. His mind would cut through the chaos of information overload, finding patterns where others see noise. That's what timeless strategic thinking is: clarity in complexity, the ability to read the room, whether it's a royal court or a corporate Zoom call. Let's break it down. Machiavelli knew power isn't won by chance, it's won by design. He'd look at today's world, where algorithms dictate visibility, where a single post can spark a movement or tank a career, and he'd thrive. Why? Because he understood that strategy isn't about reacting, it's about shaping the game before it's played. Take a modern example, a startup battling tech giants. Machiavelli wouldn't just launch a product and hope. He'd study the market's pulse, customer complaints on X, competitors' missteps, economic shifts. He'd time his move perfectly, maybe leaking a teaser to influencers to build hype, or exploiting a rival's PR blunder to steal the spotlight. That's not luck. That's strategy, calculated to the core. Now, think about your own life. Maybe you're navigating a toxic workplace, where colleagues smile to your face but sharpen knives behind your back. Machiavelli would tell you to stop playing nice and start playing smart. Watch their patterns: who gossips, who hoards credit, who cracks under pressure. Use that knowledge to position yourself as indispensable, to turn their ambition against them. He'd say, men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims. Harsh, sure, but in a world where attention is currency and trust is a luxury, his approach is a lifeline. Strategic thinking means seeing the hidden levers of power and pulling them before anyone else notices. Machiavelli's genius was his ability to adapt timeless principles to any era. Today, he'd master the tools of our age, social media, data analytics. Imagine him using predictive algorithms to forecast market trends or analyzing X sentiment to gauge public mood. He'd know when to strike, when to retreat, when to let others fight and claim the spoils. His strategies weren't rigid, they were fluid, bending to the context. In 2025, that might mean crafting a viral campaign to sway public opinion or quietly building a network of allies before a major negotiation. The principle stays the same: anticipate, manipulate, dominate. What makes this timeless is its universality. Whether you're a freelancer hustling for gigs, a politician rallying voters, or an entrepreneur chasing funding, Machiavelli's strategic lens applies. He'd urge you to study your environment, every player, every rule, every weakness. Don't just react to the world, shape it. If a rival's gaining traction, don't panic, find their blind spot. If an opportunity arises, don't rush. Set the stage to maximize your gain. This isn't about being heartless. It's about being deliberate. Every move counts, and Machiavelli played to win. Consider how this plays out in the digital age. X is a battlefield of ideas, where influence is power. Machiavelli would treat every post, every interaction, as a strategic move. He'd know that a well-timed retweet could amplify his voice, that a subtle jab could unsettle a rival. He'd use analytics to track engagement, tweaking his message to hit harder. His strategic thinking would turn fleeting moments into lasting leverage. And you can do the same, whether it's crafting a pitch, building a personal brand, or maneuvering a competitor. The key is to think like Machiavelli. See the bigger picture, plan your moves, and never let emotion cloud your judgment. This is what timeless strategic thinking demands: a cold, clear focus on the end game. Machiavelli didn't care about being liked. He cared about being effective. In 2025, with stakes higher than ever, that mindset is your edge. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, building a following, or just trying to stay ahead in a chaotic world, channel his clarity. Study the players, master the tools, and always think 3 steps ahead. That's how Machiavelli would outsmart everyone today, and how you can, too. Imagine a world where the ground shifts beneath your feet, markets crash, trends explode, and yesterday's allies turn into tomorrow's enemies. In this chaos, one man would not just survive but thrive: Niccolo Machiavelli. His genius wasn't just in scheming. It was in bending to the moment, twisting the rules of the game to his advantage. Welcome to the second of Machiavelli's 21 Rules of Power: Adaptability to Context. If you want to outsmart everyone in 2025, you need to move like Machiavelli, flowing with the tide while steering it in your favor. So, buckle up, because we're diving into how his chameleon, like Cunning, would dominate today's fast-paced, ever-changing world. Machiavelli knew that clinging to a single plan in a shifting world is a recipe for ruin. He wrote in The Prince that fortune is like a river, unpredictable, wild, but navigable if you're clever enough to build dams before the flood. Today, that river is a torrent of information, technology, and power plays. Picture Machiavelli in our digital age, eyes locked on his X feed, tracking global events in real time. A geopolitical crisis spikes oil prices. He's already pivoting investments. A new social platform emerges. He's mastering its algorithms before the masses catch on. Adaptability isn't just reacting, it's anticipating, reshaping your strategy to fit the moment while everyone else scrambles. Let's paint a picture. Say you're a tech entrepreneur in 2025, and a new AI regulation shakes your industry. Your competitors panic, slashing budgets or doubling down on outdated plans. Not Machiavelli. He'd have seen the signs, maybe a flurry of X posts from policymakers or whispers in private channels. He'd pivot, maybe rebranding his AI as regulation, proof, or lobbying behind the scenes to shape the rules. His mantra, change is not a threat, it's an opportunity. He'd adapt his pitch, his network, even his public persona to align with the new reality, leaving rivals in the dust. Now, think about your own world. Maybe you're a freelancer juggling clients, or a manager navigating corporate politics. The ground shifts daily, new tools, new rivals, new expectations. Machiavelli would tell you to stop clinging to what worked yesterday. That old email template, useless if clients now demand video pitches, that trusted colleague, a liability if they're eyeing your role. Adaptability means staying fluid, scanning the horizon for what's next. Machiavelli would be all over X, not just posting but listening, catching shifts in sentiment, spotting trends before they break. He'd know when to charm, when to strike, when to vanish into the shadows. This adaptability shines in how Machiavelli would wield technology. In 2025, he'd be a master of the digital battlefield. Imagine him using AI to analyze market data, predicting consumer behavior before it trends. He'd exploit X's algorithm, crafting posts that hit the zeitgeist just as it forms. A viral meme about a corporate scandal. He'd amplify it to weaken a rival, a new app like TikTok 3.0. He'd be an early adopter, building influence while others hesitate. His 16th century mind would see our tech as tools for power, not distractions. He'd adapt his strategies to fit the platform, the audience, the moment, always one step ahead. Consider the corporate world. A rival firm launches a game-changing product. Most would copy or complain. Machiavelli, he'd adapt. Maybe he'd spread rumors on X about their supply chain issues, sowing doubt. Or he'd pivot his own product to fill a niche they overlooked. His adaptability wasn't just tactical. It was psychological. He knew people are slow to change, so he'd exploit their inertia. While they cling to old strategies, he'd rewrite the rules. In a boardroom, he'd shift from charm to intimidation depending on the audience. On X, he'd toggle between witty and ruthless to keep followers hooked. This rule applies everywhere: politics, relationships, personal branding. Say you're building a following online. Trends shift overnight. What's viral today is stale tomorrow. Machiavelli would never post the same content twice. He'd study analytics, tweak his tone, test new formats. If short videos dominate, he'd master them. If long-form threads gain traction, he'd write them with surgical precision. Adaptability means meeting the world where it is, not where you wish it to be. He'd tell you to ditch rigid plans and embrace the flux, whether it's a new job market, a cultural shift, or a sudden betrayal. Machiavelli's adaptability was rooted in realism. He saw the world as it is, not as it should be. In 2025, that means accepting that power flows through data, attention, and influence. He'd navigate X like a general, using its chaos to his advantage. A trending hashtag, he'd hijack it. A public feud, he'd fan the flames to distract from his own moves. Every shift, economic, social, technological, was a chance to reposition, to outmaneuver. You can do the same. Watch the world, learn its rhythms, and bend them to your will. That's how Machiavelli would outsmart everyone today, by adapting faster, smarter, and with unrelenting focus. Welcome to a world where ideals bend under the weight of ambition, where victory belongs to those who dare to act without hesitation. Niccolo Machiavelli didn't just play the game of power, he rewrote its rules. His third rule in our series, Ruthless Pragmatism, is the beating heart of his philosophy. Forget lofty morals or fairy tale ethics. Machiavelli knew that results trump everything. In 2025, with stakes sky high in boardrooms, politics, and digital battlegrounds, his cold-blooded approach is your secret weapon. So lean in, because we're about to unpack how Machiavelli would cut through today's chaos with surgical precision, outsmarting everyone by prioritizing outcomes over feelings. Machiavelli believed that the ends justify the means. If power, influence, or survival is the goal, no tactic is off limits. In The Prince, he advised rulers to be lions and foxes, fierce when needed, cunning always. Today, he'd navigate our world with the same relentless focus. Picture him in a corporate war room, facing a rival's hostile takeover. While others debate ethics, Machiavelli would strike may be leaking a competitor's financial woes to X, tanking their stock before negotiations. No hand-wringing, no guilt, just results. That's ruthless pragmatism, doing what works, no matter the cost, as long as it secures your position. Let's zoom in. Imagine you're a startup founder in 2025, fighting for market share against a giant like Amazon. The right thing might be to compete fairly, touting your product's merits. Machiavelli would scoff. He'd dig for dirt, maybe a supplier's complaint buried in an X thread or a whistleblower's hint in a DM. He'd use it, quietly spreading doubt about the giant's reliability, all while positioning his own brand as the solution. Fairness, a trap for the naive. He'd say, men are so simple and yield so readily to the wants of the moment that he who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Ruthless, yes. Effective, absolutely. Now, bring this to your own life. Maybe you're climbing the career ladder and a colleague's gunning for the same promotion. They're charming, well-liked, but you know they've fumbled a project. Most would stay silent, hoping merit wins. Not Machiavelli. He'd find a way to let that mistake slip. Maybe a subtle mention in a meeting or an anonymous tip to the boss's inbox. No malice, just strategy. Ruthless pragmatism means seizing the moment, not waiting for justice to sort things out. In a world where attention is fleeting and loyalty is scarce, hesitation is a death sentence. In the digital age, Machiavelli would wield ruthless pragmatism like a blade. X is a jungle of egos and agendas, perfect for his tactics. He'd spot a rival influencer gaining traction and, instead of competing head-on, might amplify a controversial post they made months ago, letting the mob do the dirty work. Or, if he's building his own brand, he'd post content that shocks just enough to go viral, knowing outrage drives clicks. Morality doesn't trend, impact does. He'd game the algorithm not because it's noble, but because it works. Every move would be calculated to maximize influence, no matter who gets bruised. This pragmatism shines in high-stakes arenas like politics or finance. Picture Machiavelli as a modern political strategist. A rival candidate surges in polls. He'd dig into their ex-history, find a poorly worded tweet, and feed it to the media, framing it as a scandal. No need for lies, just selective truth, timed for maximum damage. Or in finance, facing normal response continued. A market downturn, he'd short a failing company's stock while publicly praising its potential, luring others to hold while he profits. It's not about being cruel, it's about being effective. Machiavelli knew that power slips through soft hands. In 2025, he'd see every crisis, every rival's misstep, as a chance to advance. What makes this rule timeless is its clarity. Machiavelli didn't waste energy on what should be. He dealt with what is. In a boardroom, he'd negotiate with charm, but keep a hidden ace, maybe insider knowledge from a disgruntled employee. On X, he'd engage followers with wit, but never reveal his full hand. If a deal required breaking a promise, he'd do it, framing it as necessity. This isn't about being heartless. It's about surviving in a world where others play dirty too. You either adapt or get outplayed. Think about your own battles. Maybe you're negotiating a raise, but your boss is stalling. Machiavelli would advise a power move, hint at a rival job offer, real or not, to shift the dynamic. Or maybe you're pitching to investors. Instead of begging, he'd craft a narrative that makes your project irresistible, even if it means exaggerating demand. Ruthless pragmatism means cutting through the noise to get what you want. In 2025, with AI shaping markets and X shaping opinions, Machiavelli would thrive by staying laser-focused on outcomes, never sentiment. This mindset demands discipline. You can't flinch when stakes are high. Machiavelli would study every player, colleagues, competitors, even friends, knowing their weaknesses are your leverage. On X, he'd track sentiment, spotting when to push a narrative or pull back. Every decision would serve the goal, whether it's influence, wealth, or survival. That's the power of ruthless pragmatism, acting without apology, striking when the iron's hot, and always keeping your eyes on the prize. In a world drowning in information, where truth bends under the weight of a single viral post, one man would hold the reins of chaos, Niccolo Machiavelli. His genius wasn't just in seizing power, it was in shaping how the world sees it. Welcome to the fourth of his 21 rules of power, perception as power. In 2025, where X posts ignite movements and headlines rewrite realities, Machiavelli would be a puppet master, pulling strings behind the scenes. If you want to outsmart everyone today, you need to control the story, not just the facts. So, settle in, because we're about to unravel how Machiavelli would weaponize perception to dominate our digital age. Machiavelli knew that people don't judge you by your deeds. They judge the shadow you cast. In The Prince, he wrote, "Men in general judge more by their eyes than by their hands." Today, that shadow is cast across screens, through tweets, memes, and carefully crafted narratives. Picture Machiavelli in 2025, scrolling X, not just consuming but orchestrating. A rival's gaining traction, he'd dig up an old, ambiguous post, twist its meaning, and let the internet's outrage machine do the rest. A crisis threatens his brand, he'd flood X with a counter, narrative, a feel, good story or a bold deflection, knowing perception outweighs truth every time. Let's ground this. Imagine you're a CEO facing a PR night, may I say, a product recall. The internet's ablaze with criticism, and your stock's tanking. Most would issue a dry apology, hoping honesty prevails. Machiavelli would laugh at that. He'd craft a story that flips the script, maybe a heartfelt X-thread about how the recall protects customers, paired with a viral video of your team going the extra mile. He'd hire influencers to amplify it, drowning out the noise. Truth doesn't win. The loudest, most compelling story does. That's perception as power, shaping what people believe before they even think to question it. Now, bring it to your world. Maybe you're a freelancer competing for a big contract, but a rival's got the edge. Machiavelli wouldn't just pitch harder, he'd reshape the client's perception. He'd subtly highlight his rival's missed deadlines, maybe a casual mention in a group chat or a concerned comment on X about industry standards. Meanwhile, he'd polish his own image, posting curated content that screams competence. A case study here, a glowing testimonial there. It's not about lying, it's about framing. Perception isn't reality, it's stronger. In the digital jungle of 2025, Machiavelli would be a narrative ninja. X is his playground, where a single post can shift fortunes. He'd know that algorithms reward engagement, so he'd craft content that sparks reactions, controversy, humor, or raw emotion. A cryptic tweet hinting at a rival's misstep could trend, drawing eyes away from their strengths. A viral thread about his own humble beginnings could build loyalty without revealing his true motives. He'd use data analytics to time his posts for maximum impact, hitting when audiences are most active. Perception isn't just managed, it's engineered. Think about politics today. A candidate's caught in a scandal. Most would deny or deflect clumsily. Machiavelli, he'd pivot, launching a campaign that reframes the narrative. Maybe he'd post a video confessing a mistake, but tying it to a universal struggle, winning sympathy. Or he'd shift focus, amplifying a rival's worst sin via anonymous accounts. On X, he'd hashtag his way to redemption, knowing the crowd follows the loudest voice. Perception as power means controlling the frame, not the facts, because the frame decides what sticks. This rule thrives in every arena. In a corporate power struggle, Machiavelli would shape how colleagues see you. Overlooked for a promotion, he'd plant seeds of your indispensability, maybe accidentally. See the boss on an email showcasing your work. On X, he'd build a personal brand that screams authority, using polished visuals and sharp one-liners to stand out. Even in relationships, perception rules. Want to sway a friend's opinion? Machiavelli would tell you to frame your advice as their idea, letting them take credit while you pull the strings. What makes this timeless is its grip on human nature. People are swayed by stories, not spreadsheets. Machiavelli would exploit that, using every tool X, media, even casual conversations, to craft a narrative that serves him. In 2025, with AI amplifying reach and deepfakes blurring truth, he'd be unstoppable. He'd use bots to boost his posts, analysts to track sentiment, and leaks to destabilize foes. Every move would shape how the world sees him, his rivals, his goals. You can do the same. Post strategically, frame your wins, bury your losses. Perception isn't just power, it's the battlefield where power is won. In a world where ambition clashes and every step forward invites a knife in the back, one man mastered the art of staying ahead, Niccolo Machiavelli. His fifth rule in our series of 21 rules of power, dealing with rivals, is a masterclass in turning threats into opportunities. In 2025, where corporate wars, social media feuds, and personal betrayals burn hotter than ever, Machiavelli would dance through the chaos, neutralizing foes with surgical precision. If you want to outsmart everyone today, you need to learn how he'd dismantle rivals without breaking a sweat. So, buckle up, because we're diving into the dark art of crushing competition in a way only Machiavelli could. Machiavelli knew that rivals are inevitable, whether it's a scheming colleague, a rival startup, or a loudmouth on X gunning for your spotlight. In The Prince, he advised to strike first, strike smart, and never let an enemy regroup. Today, he'd be a predator in the digital jungle, using every tool to outmaneuver his foes. Picture him facing a competitor in business. They're gaining traction, maybe poaching your clients with flashy X posts. Most would counter with louder ads or desperate discounts. Machiavelli, he'd go for the jugular, subtly. He'd dig through their X history for a misstep, maybe a tone-deaf comment from months ago, and amplify it through anonymous accounts, letting the internet's outrage do the damage. No fingerprints, just results. Let's make it real. Say you're a content creator, and a rival's stealing your audience with slicker videos. The instinct is to mimic their style or beg for likes. Machiavelli would roll his eyes. He'd study their weaknesses, maybe they're overconfident, ignoring niche audiences. He'd pivot, targeting those overlooked fans with tailored content, building loyalty while his rival chases trends. Or he'd drop a subtle jab in a post, framing their work as style over substance without naming them. The crowd would eat it up, and he'd watch his rival's momentum stall. Dealing with rivals means exploiting their flaws while guarding your own. In 2025, X is the perfect arena for this. Machiavelli would treat every post as a chess move, a rival's trending. He'd hijack their hashtag with a sharper take, stealing their thunder, or he'd engage their followers directly, charming them with wit or offering value they can't resist. He'd know that rivals thrive on attention, so he'd starve them of it, maybe by flooding X with a distraction, like a viral meme that shifts focus. His mantra, never fight fair when you can fight smart. Every rival has a crack pride, greed, a careless tweet, and Machiavelli would pry it open. Think about the corporate world, a colleague's angling for your promotion, schmoozing the boss with fake charm. Most would grit their teeth and work harder. Machiavelli would play dirtier, but cleaner. He'd accidentally let slip their missed deadline in a group email framed as concern. Or he'd build alliances with key players, ensuring the boss hears his name more often. On X, he'd post content that subtly outshines his rival, maybe a thread on leadership that screams competence without bragging. Dealing with rivals isn't about confrontation, it's about control, making their moves work against them. This rule thrives on human nature. People are predictable, driven by ego, fear, or ambition. Machiavelli would exploit that. In politics, Facing a surging opponent, he'd leak a story to X about their questionable donor, timed to hit when polls are tight. In a startup war, he'd poach a rival's key employee, not just for talent but to signal weakness to investors. He'd use data analytics to track his rival's moves, X engagement, funding rounds, even their hiring patterns, striking when they're vulnerable. He'd know that rivals aren't just people, they're systems with weak points waiting to be pressed. Apply this to your life. Maybe you're in a friend group where someone's undermining you, stealing credit for your ideas. Machiavelli would advise you to turn their game against them. Compliment them publicly on X, but frame it to highlight your own role, or sideline them by building stronger ties with others, isolating their influence. In a job hunt, if a competitor's outshining you, don't compete on their terms, find their blind spot. Maybe they're all flash, so you emphasize substance, pitching reliability over hype. Machiavelli's genius was seeing rivals not as obstacles, but as tools use their momentum to trip them up. In 2025, with I amplifying every move and X amplifying every voice, Machiavelli would be relentless. He'd use bots to boost his narrative, consultants to dig up dirt, and timing to ensure maximum impact. A rival's product launch, he'd overshadow it with his own announcement, perfectly timed, a public feud. He'd stay above it, letting proxies sling mud while he looks pristine. Dealing with rivals means staying calm, cold, and calculated, never letting emotion cloud your strategy. That's how Machiavelli would outsmart everyone today, turning every threat into a stepping stone. And there you have it, the blueprint of a mastermind, Niccolo Machiavelli, reimagined for the relentless arena of 2025. His 21 rules of power, distilled through the lens of timeless strategic thinking, adaptability to context, ruthless pragmatism, perception as power, and dealing with rivals, are not just lessons, they're weapons. In a world where X-posts can topple empires, where alliances shift with a single tweet, and where every move is watched, Machiavelli's cunning remains your greatest ally. He'd navigate our digital age with the same cold clarity he brought to Renaissance courts, turning chaos into opportunity, rivals into stepping stones, and perception into dominance. These rules aren't for the timid. They demand boldness, foresight, and an unyielding focus on the prize. Whether you're climbing corporate ladders, building a brand, or battling for influence, Machiavelli's voice whispers, outthink, outmaneuver, outlast. The game of power never sleeps, and neither should you. Embrace these principles, shape your story, and seize the advantage, because in this world, only the shrewdest prevail.